So on May 13, Jupiter leaves Aquarius and enters Pisces. So we see on the chart here that Jupiter is pictured at 0 degrees of the sign Pisces, entering the 12th house of the chart. So we are entering now the 2.5-month period of the year of 2021, when Jupiter is in Pisces from about the middle of May until the end of July. So when we stand back and look at 2021, we have this again 2.5-month period mid-year when Jupiter is in the sign of Pisces before it dips back into Aquarius at the end of July. So we have this 2.5-month period before Jupiter settles down into Pisces properly at the end of December. So a little bit of a kind of preview then of Jupiter in Pisces before it settles down properly in the sign in December. So we're going to say a few things about this ingress, this entrance of Jupiter into Pisces, this interlude from about May to July. The first thing that jumps out at us is that with Jupiter entering Pisces, the Pisces field is activated by both its rulers, traditional and modern. So Jupiter would be the traditional ruler of Pisces, and we have Neptune as the modern ruler. So an activated Pisces field with planets that strengthen or naturally amplify the attributes of the sign. And of course, Jupiter itself is the great amplifier. It would amplify and enlarge and kind of blow up the sign energy of any sign that it's in. The next thing that we want to take note of is that as Jupiter is entering Pisces, Jupiter is slowing down. So you may have noticed Jupiter has been racing through Aquarius. So in 5 months, Jupiter has traversed or traveled through all of Aquarius. But as Jupiter enters Pisces, it begins to slow down as it prepares to station retrograde in June. So as we were mentioning recently in the astrology of April, in terms of planetary speed, as a planet slows down and as it's preparing to station, either retrograde or direct, this would, in simple terms, represent a concentration of the planet's energy. So as Jupiter slows down, as it's about to station retrograde, it would represent a concentration of this energy. The energy of the planet is more powerful and concentrated. So because of this slowdown, in a period of 2.5 months, Jupiter is only covering a 3-degree ground. So 0 degrees Pisces, 1 degree Pisces, 2 degrees Pisces. So these are the critical degrees here, 0 to 2 degrees Pisces. So let's say a few more things here to sort of, let's say, trace the themes then. The first thing is that this Jupiter in Pisces 2.5-month interlude, Jupiter activating the Pisces sign field along with Neptune. This would represent a time when, in broad terms, let's say that the bendability of reality becomes more obvious. What do we mean? Well, if you follow the quantum physicists at all, you'll appreciate that when you penetrate to the subatomic layers of reality and examine reality from that level, the deeper atomic structures reveal that, well, things are far less solid than they appear. So matter and solidity is an outpicturing of, quite literally, an invisible subatomic world. So first, with Jupiter in Pisces, is the idea of there being a concentrated interval of time where on collective and personal levels, events occur that lead people to expand their ideas of reality because these events don't really conform to, let's say, the ordinary rules of reality as we know them anyway. So this is one of the deeper energetic invitations of this Jupiter in Pisces interval mid-year to expand your concept of the non-physical and, let's say, spiritual substratas of the reality in which you find yourself. So events happening on personal and collective levels that make you say, well, did that really just happen? Because, well, these events are what we might describe as more magical, so to speak. So things happening that reveal to your awareness that reality is more malleable, more bendable, because this non-physical substrata to reality is a bit more exposed in this period of time, in this interval of time. So we are collectively entering an interlude mid-year when this kind of non-physical substrata becomes more revealed to our conscious awareness. So Jupiter in Pisces, expanding your beliefs to widen the scope of what you think is possible in your reality. So expansion beyond some of the parameters of reality as you think of it, to show you that more is possible. So at the highest levels then of this Jupiter in Pisces interlude, it would, in simple terms, represent support for an expansion of consciousness in order for us to become more comfortable with events that kind of bend the rules, of how reality is supposed to operate, or how we've been told reality is supposed to operate. So this Jupiter in Pisces interlude in the middle of a Jupiter in Aquarius year will also support and, let's say, enhance the objectives and the goals of Jupiter in Aquarius. So on one level, as we've been saying and discussing on the channel, Jupiter in Aquarius represents this invitation to expand the frameworks of your thinking, your conceptual framework, because Aquarius would be what? An air sign, the mind. So the idea of expanding your conceptual framework by entertaining ideas that might be considered a bit strange, a bit Aquarian, because they depart from conventional or established ways in which the world might be understood. So progressing forward into more advanced thinking, which may seem strange from the perspective of more orthodox kind of thinking. So if you told most people 100 years ago that we would have the kinds of technological unfoldments within just 100 years that we've seen, well, it might be a bit far out in terms of their conceptual framework, people living 100 years ago. So Aquarius, this idea of going beyond our usual conceptual frameworks. And so this Jupiter in Pisces interval or interlude, again with both Jupiter and Neptune activating the Pisces sign field, a sign field that these planets share a natural affinity with. This Jupiter in Pisces interlude will help us to expand our framework of awareness by helping us to become more familiar with the idea that reality is more bendable, more malleable, more magical, and most importantly, that reality is responsive to the beliefs that you hold. So let's emphasize that point. This Jupiter in Pisces period will support coming into awareness of the magical, let's say, abracadabra quality of your beliefs. So Jupiter, of course, on one level representing the beliefs that we hold or worldview and how we interpret reality. So revealing the magical quality of your beliefs, meaning showing to us more of the direct relationship between the quality of our beliefs and the non-physical energy that beliefs call to them, which then becomes stepped down into physical reality to create actual events and experiences in our physical lives. So showing us that our beliefs condition the non-physical space from which our physical experience emerges. So beliefs, Jupiter, are part of the non-physical, let's say subatomic architecture, Pisces, from which physical reality emerges. So, it's the idea that in this time, and always in general, you want to do what? Cultivate supportive beliefs, because your beliefs are the magical passwords, the codes that, let's say, abracadabra up your reality. So as this Jupiter in Pisces interval extends an invitation into an expanded consciousness, as you realize that more is possible in your reality than you thought, and that reality is more bendable and more magical, this can help to do what? Cultivate positive states of faith and trust in a higher power, however you would conceive that. So Jupiter in Pisces, faith and trust, Jupiter, in a higher spiritual power, Pisces, an emotional connection to the higher spiritual goodness and benevolence, Jupiter, of the field of energy, Pisces. So the idea of collective events, personal events that bring into more conscious understanding that reality is a dream, so to speak, a dream of your consciousness. So some would say that, well, life is the dream of the soul, that your life is a dream of your soul, a projection of your non-physical soul self into a physical playground. So, well, we watch all kinds of series on TV and movies, and we follow the characters around for an hour or two on screen. And some of us, well, we binge watch. And well, to extend the analogy, just as how you may watch a movie or a screen, you might think of your soul watching the movie of your life as it's projected into a third dimensional physical reality. So, Jupiter in Pisces, the power of the self to dream realities into being. Dreaming, Pisces, because dreaming is a basic function of the human anatomy of consciousness. So dreaming is a word, or it is the word that we use to describe how we all project our consciousness to bring realities into being, how we paint the canvas of our reality. So this transit, this dipping of Jupiter into Pisces, an invitation to understand more of your own natural power to bring realities into being, to envisage and imagine realities, because, well, this is what you already do as a natural function. But what we want to pay attention to is the quality of how we dream, the beliefs that go into what we project, because these beliefs have an extra magical quality now. There's more abracadabra power behind them with this Jupiter in Pisces interlude. So, well, dream well, invest in good beliefs, supportive beliefs that open you up to realities of grace. Now, it's useful to point out as well that Jupiter is even more significant because it is the ruler of the Sagittarius South Node. So if, as we were saying, the placement of the nodes across Gemini, Sagittarius, that represents an invitation into fresh perceptions that counter old, stagnant dogmas and beliefs, then on one level, Jupiter in Pisces would support this process. If Jupiter in Pisces invites us to expand our consciousness, to understand more of the basic bendability of our reality, then this can help us to move beyond our old frameworks, Sag South Node, our old frameworks of what we thought was possible. Now, of course, we want to be aware of some of the collective challenges that we have to navigate with this Jupiter in Pisces 2.5-month interlude. So Jupiter, again, the amplifier, the amplifier of what? Pisces things. So, well, big illusions and projections, mirages, especially on a global scale. So grand mirages and projections that make it difficult for us to collectively suss out, well, what's really real? This is a huge question in these Neptune in Pisces years. What's really real? Is what I see on screen on my devices giving me an accurate picture of reality? It's the era of fake news. So Neptune and Pisces, the image. We live in a world highly mediated by the images we see on screen. So Jupiter in Pisces would tend to ramp up all of this, so amplifying what is fake or phony. Another facet of Pisces on one level of the archetype, things that are fake and phony. So amplifying confusion, Pisces, on collective global levels. Jupiter is where things have a big and wide reach. So another thing that will be amplified, no doubt, is this question of psychic sensitivity. So increased and amplified collective psychic sensitivity. So psychic sensitivity means nothing by itself, really. Meaning the question is, well, what am I psychically sensitive to? Am I more sensitive to confusion and states of fear? Or am I psychically sensitive to more supportive energies? These are the questions. So Jupiter in Pisces can symbolically describe on one level where confusion is magnified and cloudy thinking is increased, Pisces. But on other levels, depending again on the quality of your own personal consciousness, the quality of your own personal awareness, Jupiter in Pisces can describe tremendously supportive inner states of spiritual connection and the clear cognition and wisdom and knowledge, Jupiter, that comes from a connection to the spiritual and soul realities, Pisces. The spiritual and soul realities that nurture your existence. So, quite a few things to think about there with Jupiter in Pisces. All right, so reminding you that I'm available for private astrological counseling and teaching consultations, and links to that are in the description box below the video, where you'll also find links to stay connected with me via email if you'd like the astrology of the month videos to be sent to your inbox.